power and parents more power.
We are still waiting for President Trump to make his way into that signing ceremony. We've got the 2-minute warning several times in the past 20 minutes. Everyone did just stand, so they may be about to welcome him into this executive order signing ceremony, expecting to dismantle the Department of Education. In fact, here he comes now. There's President Trump making his way into the ceremony. As he makes his way to the podium, we're going to turn it over and listen to this moment, which has been talked about for quite some time in American history, of dismantling the Department of Education.
Thank you very much, Eddie. And I'd like to start by saying that our country is doing very well. Things are, as you can see, doing quite well. Please sit down. Before we begin, I just want to announce that I signed a proclamation a few moments ago honoring the 250th anniversary of Patrick Henry's famous speech to the Second Virginia Convention, in which he declared very well-known, very famous words, "Give me liberty or give me death." Has anyone heard the phrase? I think most of you have. And moments ago, I also signed an executive order to dramatically increase production of critical minerals and rare earths. It's a big thing in this country. And as you know, we're also signing agreements in various locations to unlock rare earths and minerals and lots of other things all over the world. But in particular, Ukraine, we're doing very well with regard to Ukraine and Russia. And one of the things we are doing is signing a deal very shortly with respect to rare earths with Ukraine, which they have tremendous value in rare earth, and we appreciate that. And we spoke yesterday with, as you know, President Putin and President Zelensky, and we would love to see that come to an end, and I think we're doing pretty well in that regard. So hopefully we could save thousands of people a week from dying. That's what it's all about. They're dying so unnecessarily, and I believe we'll get it done. We'll see what happens, but I believe we'll get it done. Today we take a very historic action that was 45 years in the making. In a few moments, I will sign an executive order to begin eliminating the Federal Department of Education once and for all. And it sounds strange, doesn't it? Department of Education, we're going to eliminate it. And everybody knows it's right. And the Democrats know it's right. And I hope they're going to be voting for it, because ultimately it may come before them. But everybody knows it's right. And we have to get our children educated. We're not doing well with the world of education in this country, and we haven't for a long time. And we're pleased to be joined today by the woman who I chose because she's an extraordinary person, and hopefully she will be our last Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon. Linda, thank you. Thank you very much. That's another interesting statement. It's an interesting opening, right? But it's true, and people, you know, it's been amazing how popular this has been. I tell people that this is what I'm doing today, and they say, oh, it's about time. Everybody says it. Republicans and Democrats have said it. They're all saying it. Also with us are some terrific people. Governors Greg Abbott. Greg, thank you very much. Governor Ron DeSantis, thank you very much, Ron. Mike Braun, congratulations on your victory, Mike. That was a big one. Mike DeWine, thank you very much, Mike. Jeff Landry. Jeff, thank you very much, Jeff. Bill Lee, thank you. Governors, all governors. Brad Little. Brad, thank you very much. Where are you, Brad? Hi, Brad. Jim Pilan, thank you very much, Jim. And Kim Reynolds. These are all people very interested in education. And I even see Dan Patrick over there, my friend Dan Patrick. We're joined also by Representatives Tim Walberg and Virginia Fox, Rick Allen, Michael Rulli, and again, Dan Patrick. Thank you very much, Dan. You've been a great friend of ours. And State Attorneys General Ken Paxton. Ken, I see you there. Andrew Bailey. Andrew, what a job you've done, Andrew. You have some good cases going. You've done a great job. Thank you very much. And co-founder of Moms for Liberty, Tiffany Justice. She's been a hard worker. Thank you. Thank you, Billy. Thank you, Tiffany. When President Carter created the Federal Education Department in 1979, it was opposed by members of his own cabinet, as well as the American Federation of Teachers, the New York Times editorial board, and the famed Democrat Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan. History has proven them right, absolutely right. After 45 years, the United States spends more money on education by far than any other country, and spends likewise by far more money per pupil than any country, and it's not even close. But yet we rank near the bottom of the list in terms of success. It's an amazing stat. Those are two stats you don't want. The most money spent per pupil, and you're at the bottom of the list. And that's where we are, like it or not. And we've been there for a long time. 70% of eighth graders are not proficient in either reading or in math. 70%. 40% of fourth graders lack even basic reading skills, can't read. Students in our public elementary and middle schools score worse in reading today than when the department opened, by a lot. In Baltimore, 40% of the high schools have 0 students who can do basic mathematics. Not even the very simplest of mathematics. I said, give me your definition of basic. And they're talking about like adding a few numbers together. Despite these breathtaking failures, the department's discretionary budget has exploded by 600% in a very short period of time, and employs bureaucrats in buildings all over Washington, D.C. And as a former real estate person, I will tell you, I ride through the streets of Washington and it says Department of Education, Department of Education. I said, how do you fill those buildings? It's crazy what's happened over the years. I'm pleased to report that after offering these federal employees 2 generous buyout options, and they were very generous, and they're good people, but they were very generous. My administration has initiated a reduction in force, and we're already cutting numbers that were really surprising to a lot, that we were able to do it so successfully. And we've cut the number of bureaucrats in half. 50% have taken office, which is great. Thank you. Under the action I'm taking today, a small handful of Democrats and others that we have employed for a long time, and there are some Republicans, but not too many, I have to be honest with you. But the department's useful functions, and such as, and they're in charge of them, Pell Grants, Title I funding, resources for children with disabilities and special needs will be preserved, fully preserved. They're all going to be. So if you look at the Pell Grants, supposed to be a very good program, Title I funding and resources for children with special disabilities and special needs, they're going to be preserved in full and redistributed to various other agencies and departments that will take very good care of them. And that's very important to Linda, I know, and it's very important to all of us. But beyond these core necessities, my administration will take all lawful steps to shut down the department. We're going to shut it down, and shut it down as quickly as possible. It's doing us no good. We want to return our students to the states, where just some of the governors here are so happy about this. They want education to come back to them, to come back to the states, and they're going to do a phenomenal job. You know, if you look, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, I have to tell you, I give them a lot of credit. China's top 10. And so we can't now say that bigness is making it impossible to educate, because China is very big. but you have countries that do a very good job in education. And I really believe, like some of the governors here today from states that run very, very well, including a big state like Texas, but states that run very well are going to have education that will be as good as Norway, Denmark, Sweden, and those top, Finland, those top countries that do so well with education. I think they'll do every bit as well. And what do you think about that, Governor? Do you agree? Huh? I think so. Ron, do you agree? I think so. Florida? Iowa? That's right. I really believe that. They'll be as good as any of them. And then you'll have some laggards, and we'll work with them. And we can all tell you who the laggards will be right now, probably, but let's not get into that. But we'll work with them, and we're going to make them, they'll do a job. I think they'll do a job, and they'll go to sections of the state. For instance, New York, you'll have a Manhattan, and you'll have a Suffolk County, and you'll have a Nassau County, and you'll have Westchester County. You'll do 4 or 5 or 6 of them. You have upstate New York, and those counties, I think, are going to do very well. And I think ultimately Manhattan should do very well, but we'll break it down into sections, and I think it'll be really, really good, and they're going to be probably the tougher ones, but I think they have a chance to do really well. But we're going to be returning education very simply back to the states where it belongs, and this is a very popular thing to do, but much more importantly, it's a common sense thing to do, and it's going to work. Absolutely, it's going to work, and I can tell you from dealing with the governors and others in the state, they want it so badly. They want to take their children back and really teach their children individually. Probably the cost will be half, and the education will be maybe many, many times better. So we look forward to this. I want to just make one little personal statement. Teachers, to me, are among the most important people in this country. And we're going to take care of our teachers. And I don't care if they're in the union or not in the union. That doesn't matter. But we're going to take care of our teachers. And I believe the states will take actually better care of them than they are taken care of right now. They'll work all sorts of systems and even merit systems. Those great teachers are going to be maybe a little bit better rewarded, or maybe that's the way it should be, but the states are going to make that decision. But we're going to love and cherish our teachers along with our children, and they're going to work with the parents, and they're going to work with everybody else, and it's going to be an amazing thing to watch, and it's really going to be something special. And Linda, you're presiding over something that's so important, and you're going to do a fantastic job, just like you have your whole life. I know your whole life I've been watching you. I've been watching you for a long time. She's had nothing but success. So it's tremendous to have you, and hopefully you won't be there too long, but we're going to find something else for you, Linda, okay? So this will conclude what we are talking about with respect to our most cherished group of people, and that's our children. We want to have our children well educated. We want them to love going to school. We have examples of it. Look at those beautiful, bright-eyed faces. They are so smart. They're so smart. And with that, I'm going to come down, and we're going to sign a very important document, and we're going to be on our way. People have wanted to do this for many, many years, for many, many decades. And I don't know, no president ever got around to doing it, but I'm getting around to doing it. So thank you very much. Hello, good looking people here. Should I do this? I was very lucky. I signed another document that turned out to be very good for the country, and I said, let's use that same pen. I don't know, is anybody superstitious? Ron, are you superstitious? Let's use that same pen. Okay. Can you come up just to say? Big factory here. Good luck, sir.
All right, welcome back into the Will Cain Show. President Trump moments ago signing an executive order dismantling the Department of Education with the goal of giving school power back to the states. Let's bring our panel, which includes Fox News at Night host Trace Gallagher, host of Fox News Sunday Shannon Bream, and chief Washington correspondent for the Washington Examiner, Byron York, and the founder of Environmental Progress, Michael Schellenberger. Let's start, if we might, with history. I'd love to bring you in, Byron, on this. While this is a revolutionary act, as described by Stephen Miller a little bit earlier here on our program, it is an act that has been discussed for decades, including as far back as President Ronald Reagan. This has also been at times a bipartisan approach, criticizing the existence of the Department of Education. How today, though, do you think it will be received? Will it be seen as something that is an extension of efforts for decades, or truly revolutionary?
I do not think it'll be seen as truly revolutionary, because at some point this effort has to run up against the fact that Congress created the Department of Education. And you can't get rid of, a president cannot by fiat get rid of an executive department created by Congress. And it's more than that. If you look at this lawsuit that was filed a week ago by the attorneys general of a lot of states, maybe 20 states, against Trump, trying to prevent him from doing this very thing, it also talks about Congress creating offices inside the Department of Education and dictating what those offices are supposed to do. For example, Congress created the Office for Civil Rights inside the Department of Education. It is huge. Hundreds of lawyers, regional offices all around the country. And what the opponents are going to say here, many Democrats are going to say, is the president cannot close down something that Congress has specifically mandated. That is not just the department, but the offices inside it.
So I hear you, Byron, that you do not think it will be revolutionary because you largely think it will be ineffective, stopped yet again by the judicial process, by the federal district courts as a start. Let's go to you on that, Shannon. I had Stephen Miller on the program a little bit earlier, and he told me basically what they are hoping for when it comes to all of these cases is an overarching ruling from the Supreme Court that stops federal district judges from having the power to enjoin the executive. Is that a goal, do you think, that is accomplishable for the administration?
It's possible. You think about the fact that you've had Justices Thomas and Gorsuch actually speak to these nationwide injunctions, casting real doubt on whether they should exist or be reined in some way. But it's not just them. You've also had Justice Kagan back in 2022, I think it was, and she talked about this, that you can't have people forum shopping, running off to Northern District of California if you want to find a judge that maybe isn't going to be Trump friendly, or running off to maybe Texas or Florida to find a federal judge who isn't friendly to maybe the Biden administration. They put something on hold, not only for their district, but the entire country. And then while it plays out on the merits for a year or two, I mean, that would be half of what President Trump has left in this, his final term. Even Justice Kagan suggested that that cannot be the way this is supposed to work. So I think we maybe finally get to that question about nationwide injunctions. And I do think you've at least got a few justices who have publicly said maybe time to rein them in.
Okay. All right. Well, if it is effective in the short term, I'll bring in Michael Schellenberger here. This is very akin, Michael, to what has been done with USAID. There's not a moment here where there's an attempt to abolish the DOE. As Byron pointed out, that takes an act of Congress and would take 60 senators, which would include at least 7 to 8 Democrat senators. But to defund much of the Department of Education, that's what we're looking at here. The block grants, the grants from the Department of Education are the way it exercises policy over education. So can President Trump stop the funds flowing out of the DOE?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly can try. I mean, I don't know what will happen with the courts. I think it's a whole separate question. But I think what's such a big deal about today is just the fact that Trump is taking this action and acknowledging that the Department of Education lacks legitimacy. I mean, the student performance has worsened over the years. Everybody knows this. And we also know that there's been all this research into alternative methods of teaching kids, when in fact the only thing that works, the thing we know works, is just having teachers in front of the classroom teaching kids how to read and do math. It's got to be teacher-centered. So it's a back to the basics moment. I hope that that's the main thing people need to realize, is that they've been doing a ton of research on how to improve education for kids, and they haven't improved on the way that they used to do it 100 years ago. And so
Right.
I think that the just dismantling this department that's been a distraction, trying to train teachers in methods that don't work, including whole language theory as opposed to just sounding words out for reading.
And back here into our studios in Los Angeles, Trace, you were just sharing with me a
Right.
great illustration of this fact right here in LA.
Yeah, we have middle schools in Los Angeles that have kids on the honor roll, hundreds of kids on the honor roll, and then you do the national testing and not a single one of those children can read or write at grade level. These are 8th graders, and you think this is a travesty. This is the way it's been. And what happens is, and the president kind of articulated this, is that, and so did Stephen Miller at the top of the hour, talking about the fact that the Department of Education has become this far left organization, right? And you talk to teachers in California and other places, and they will tell you they are mandated to follow these teachers unions. They want some freedom from that. They want some freedom from these DEI policies that are implemented from these leftist organizations. And they're looking and hoping that this will give them eventual freedom to be able to do as they were intending to do, which is to educate kids, teach them how to read and do math.
Yeah, the American public wants more power in the hands of families, in the hands of parents, in the hands of local municipalities and school districts. So while this may be a battle in the court system, we'll come back in just a moment. We're going to talk to Byron York, Shannon Bream, Michael Schellenberger, and Trace Gallagher about whether or not practically, politically, this is what we want in America. Return the power and our money back to the states when it comes to education. We're going to continue our conversation